Oh, wow. Canelo Alvarez, I was born ready, said he most wanted to cut Gennady, had no guys, had Max, Golovkin's head off. He said off with his head ahead of their rematch. We're going to talk about that, the latest quotes from Canelo Alvarez, and more. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. Make sure you click the link in the description box of all of my videos to sign up for TubeBuddy. Listen, it takes money to make money. I've been using TubeBuddy for years. It can help you to optimize your content. So that's why I've teamed up with TubeBuddy. Click the link in the description. Started off with 0 subscribers. Now we're over 200,000 and counting. We continue to grow. TubeBuddy helps you dig in and ultimately make money on YouTube by optimizing your content, so it's easier to search. It pulls up in the search. A lot of features, it'll take me a while to go over some of the features, but I definitely use it on a daily basis for videos like this. Now, Canelo Alvarez did an interview recently with Graham Bensinger. I'm not really familiar with who he is, but maybe he's a big deal because Canelo gave him a pretty dope exclusive where he went over a few things. Some of the things I understood, some things I didn't. Real quick, I did a video about it yesterday. Canelo said he would have knocked out Floyd Mayweather in his prime. He said Floyd Mayweather wouldn't have fought him in his prime, which is really a contradiction. How are you going to knock somebody out if you also say that the person never would have fought you when you're in your prime? So, it's really an oxymoron, if you will. You said prime versus prime, I would have knocked Floyd Mayweather, but then you also said he wouldn't have fought you in the prime. So, it's kind of tough to knock someone out if you don't fight. But me, I don't prefer that. I think 2 weeks ahead of his Saunders fight that not many people are talking about, it's a bad look because it looks like clout chasing. It looks like the loss is haunting you. And you see a lot of, just boxing outlets and headlines and tweets and stuff, and they're quoting the negative things that Canelo said about Floyd Mayweather. This is another reason why it looks like clout chasing, because the negative press from this interview, he was asked about Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. He says it's stupid, it's a money grab, yada, yada, yada. He said he would knock out Floyd. And the funny thing is, you see everybody and their mama posting these and slapping this everywhere, and this is the clickbait. This becomes the headline. But all the disparaging things, which was actually realistic and not subjective and more damning, like the stuff he said about Oscar De La Hoya, his former promoter, all of a sudden you don't see those very same people advertising or posting that. So it's funny they say that your boy Ego is biased, but who's really biased? Anything in the world of boxing I cover. Good, bad, or indifferent, I cover all subjects. But you see the games that some people in old media play. Canelo, if he's saying negative things about he'll knock out Floyd, prime versus prime, he would have ducked me, or, Logan Paul fight is stupid. These same people and the same usual suspects and culprit, they will make it a point to let you know that. However, they won't tell you about the rest of the interview. Most importantly, firsthand account and personal experience of Golden Boy. He said Oscar De La Hoya is not the Golden Boy. He said Oscar doesn't really run the company. He said Oscar would rather drink and party, and he's not in tune with his fighter and his business. He doesn't care about his fighter. So to me, that is something more noteworthy, that he threw him under the bus, because Canelo's usually pretty chill. He keeps to himself. He's very mature. So I was surprised to even hear that he even went in on Oscar De La Hoya. But moreover, Canelo's actually talking about something, his personal experience. And he says he understands why. At first, he didn't understand why all the fighters went to Al Haymon and PBC. But then he said now he understands it. He was just being loyal, So to me, that was one of the most heavy hitting and damning parts of the interview. But once again, you see the clout chasing. So people use Floyd Mayweather's name after he already whooped Canelo. And the negative things he said about Floyd becomes the whole topic. 2 weeks ahead of his fight with Saunders. So I don't really like that. I just think clout chasing is weak. Even if you're asked a question, how many times have you seen a fighter get asked a question, they say next question? Or if they don't feel like talking, they don't talk. So Canelo wanted to put those things out. And I think it's in poor taste, because the thing you're talking about with Floyd Mayweather is something nobody can prove. Prime versus prime. Some people would say Floyd's prime was at Pretty Boy Floyd, you know, the lighter weights, like 130, 135-ish, sub 147. Some of those weights you weren't even at. So we don't know. All we know is Floyd whooped you. Easy work. You lost. Get over it. You know what I mean? And now you've outgrown 154. There's really no need for a rematch anyway, based on how the first fight played out. And you've been fighting and campaigning at 168, 175. Now he's talking about he would have knocked out Floyd. So he needed almost a decade to improve to say this, you know? So to me, that whole thing was kind of lame. So I didn't agree with that. But more about the topic of this particular video. He said a lot so I'll probably have to make separate videos. But he did talk about Golovkin. He said he wanted to cut the man's head off. He said after he failed a drug test, and that's why he wanted to cut Golovkin's head off, because Golovkin was saying, oh yeah, he said he seen needle marks, and you know, he was really trying to kick a man while he was down, so to speak. Canelo says, quote, I had very difficult months because I was accused of having done something that they called doping, and it wasn't doping. It was a very low percentage. All meat here has Clenbuterol. If you eat a piece of meat here, you go and get tested, you're going to test positive for Clenbuterol, but that's not doping. And it was very difficult for me. It was very difficult, but it was always in my mind. I just have to win. I just have to beat this a-hole, you know, the real world. I just have to beat him. And it started out as my worst year, and it ended as my best year. It says, I'm just going to really beat his effing face in. That's what I said. I think that I've never been disrespectful to my rivals or any of that, because you have to be respectful always. But he was one of the persons who I most wanted to cut their heads off. Wow. He says, that's what I'm saying. I didn't have to prove that to anyone. These aren't steroids. What happened was not steroids. They're not cataloged as steroids. After what happened to me, they made it legal, a certain legal percentage of Clenbuterol, because a lot exists. I think that most people, most media, whether you explain it to them or not, they're not going to understand you ever. They're always going to F you over. So I never really worried about explaining it to them or whether they understood me. You know, and I think that's a bad attitude from Canelo, and I disagree with a lot of what he said here. This is just my personal opinion, ego speaking. He's saying it's not classified as a steroid, but it's still a banned substance. You know, there's diuretics that you're not allowed to take. You're not allowed to take anything that enhances your performance outside of something your body is able to naturally produce. So a diuretic isn't a steroid either, but what it does is, instead of wearing a sauna suit for every day, 24/7, you're able to use the bathroom and basically cut and sweat and lose weight faster, so you can keep a high weight. Like, this is what fighters do. See, I've have pretty decent extensive knowledge in this type of subject matter. I used to be really into like reading bodybuilding magazines and stuff like that. But as for a fighter, here's how it works. A fighter can be, let's say you campaign at 147 welterweight. That's a popular division. And then you can keep your weight high for most of your camp, get your sparring in, get your rounds in. And then if you're on a diuretic, which also isn't classified as a steroid, then you can come down and lose weight quicker. So that's an unfair advantage if you're putting diuretics in your system, because now you have the ability to lose weight quicker, to make weight, and you didn't have to, put in more miles or do whatever. So it's an unfair advantage. Also, a lot of people use diuretics to mask the presence of harder substances, actual anabolic steroids like stanozolol and stuff like that, to get it out their system. So yeah, it doesn't matter if Clenbuterol is a respiratory drug that allows you, it enhances your breathing and stuff like that. So who knows, your endurance could be better, things like that. So even though it's not a steroid, this, to me, this was, Canelo shouldn't even went into detail of that. He should have just been like, I'm over it, happened years ago. I wanted to cut Golovkin's head off. That's cool. But the fact that he's saying everybody who eats here, they would test positive, but that's not the case. So nobody in the history of boxing has went to Mexico, ate there, and had a steak, and came back and fought, and they didn't test positive. So I didn't think this was in Canelo's best interest to say that. He said all the meat here has clenbuterol, and I understand that clenbuterol in parts of Asia and also Mexico, they do use clenbuterol at some of the farms and stuff like that. But just to surmise that all the meat has it, then that's not it. And then the other part that was pretty surprising that Canelo would even say is, he said, after I failed the drug test, they went and changed the amount. But that's just politics in boxing. That's just because the WBC, they kiss your ass. You know what I'm saying? So that's not a good, this wasn't a good look. I don't know how else to put it. In my opinion, that wasn't a good look. He's making it like it was such a low percentage. The FDA changed the amount of clenbuterol. The WBC, in conjunction with their clean boxing program, now allows for more clenbuterol. They changed the whole thing after, but that's because a major star failed. So that could be, more or less, so it doesn't happen again, because there were several fighters like Ray Vargas and another Canelo Promotions fighter, Julio Cesar Martinez, that had it. So to me, that doesn't really win people over. I don't even understand why he's bringing this up. Like I said, I would have kept it simple. Just said Golovkin made me mad and I want to cut his head off. And he's talking like he's the cartel or something. He said he's gonna cut his head off. That seems a little bit extreme. But once again, old media won't say nothing because it's Canelo. But when Deontay Wilder said he wants to catch a body, no one has a problem. When Gennady Golovkin recently said he wouldn't care if he took Oscar De La Hoya out of here, old media didn't have a problem. When Canelo says he wants to cut off Golovkin's head 2 weeks before his fight, you don't see this public backlash and things like that. So a little bit weird that Canelo did this interview. Canelo kind of has a diva-ish personality, that he only wanted to sit down with Graham Bensinger dude, So I don't know what the deal is with that, but he did drop a few gems, more so about his experiences with Golden Boy. And for whatever reason, he seemed like he was pretty comfortable with this dude, because he was giving him all exclusive drops that you don't really hear this type of stuff from Canelo. So I don't know if his ticket sales, they said he sold 80,000. I don't know if he just feels like the interest is low and he had to make some headlines with some crazy stuff. But you don't really see Canelo talk like this, like where he has 5-6 different subjects and they're all quotables, and he's saying he want to cut Golovkin's head off and he would have knocked Mayweather out. So to me, it looks kind of bad, because it looks like clout chasing. There's not that much interest for your fight, and then all of a sudden you're a little bit out of character doing this random exclusive interview, and a non-boxing person. I mean, I can't say that. I don't really know who the guy is, but he looked like, like it was more so a Barbara Walters type of show rather than somebody who just covers boxing, or like ESPN Deportes. So a little bit weird. Don't know how the interview came about, but Canelo said what he said he wanted to chop Golovkin's head off or whatever, and tries to go into detail. And the other thing about Canelo, he said it was a difficult year. He wanted to beat this a-hole and stuff like that. It was a low percentage. You still failed, That's the bottom line. At the point, you can say whatever you want about how they upped the amount, but at the point in time in which you failed, they hadn't done that. So you failed for a banned substance. So like I said, it doesn't really make your case. If I get a speeding ticket in January for driving, let's say 80 miles on the freeway, and the freeway has posted signs that says 65 miles per hour, then I'm gonna get a ticket for going over the speed limit. Now, if they later that year in October change the speed limit to 80 miles per hour, that doesn't retroactively change. I got a speeding ticket, and that occurred at a point where the speeding limit, the posted limit, was 65 miles per hour. So I don't even understand why Canelo even went in about this. You know, you already got past it. You already beat Triple G. Triple G doesn't even really look like the same fighter. And, you know, I don't think it really did him any favors here. And then some of what he was saying on this interview just looked like clout chasing to me, you know? And, you know, he's like, oh, this is not steroids, and I only had a little bit, and they later made it leave. I mean, none of that's here nor there. You failed. It was a banned substance. And, you know, you said you were mad because Golovkin pointed it out or said something. But that's the thing. You actually failed, though, you know? You failed. That's just, he said it's not doping, but it's still failing a PED test. You know, so you can be mad at Golovkin and say the media will never give you credit or whatever the situation is. But I just ultimately, him dabbling on the drug thing, you gotten past it, I would have just probably zipped it. But sometimes people say too much. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing out. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.